after we saw the movie Blind Vaysha, I'm really not only honored but very happy that you are tonight here with us, Georgi Gospodinov, and that we can have a not so short Q&A with you, who has written the story Blind Vaysha, that Teodorushev, a Canadian, today a Canadian director of Bulgarian origin. This is what I found online about his description of his origin, made after your story. In 2017, he was also a nominee for the Oscars, for the Academy Awards, for the Best Animated Movie. And this was the first cooperation between your texts and his animations, because a couple of years later he made also a movie about animated movie of 30 minutes about physics of sorrow. He took some fragments or maybe some impulses from this book, which I think it's even said based after the novel of Georgi Gospodinov. So for all of people who maybe so far have not met your literature, there are some very interesting motives which are also later, one can say, that you are famous for, because you play with the moment of time, as we have in this story. Then it's of course the superstition, the Bulgarian but also the whole Balkanese heritage of old ladies and magic, or magic in general. And then just to mention some of them, but tonight I would also like to explain why you and I, you as a Bulgarian and I as a Bosnian, speak in English, is because that your movie is available not only in the German-speaking countries but also in most of the southeastern European countries for the next 60 minutes. So the story Blind Vaysha is a story, as I read it, about time in first place. One eye is always dedicated to the past and the other to the future. So where is the present? What motivated you to speak about the lacking of present?
That's the question. Thank you for this invitation, and thank you for the showing of movie. I really like this movie and this work made by Teodorushev. We are friends, and first, by the way, we met because of the physics of sorrow. He started to think about the animation of physics of sorrow, and meanwhile he decided to make this Blind Vaysha movie based on the short story. And because you said he's Canadian based now, filmmaker, but actually he was born in a small town, Kustendil. I was born in Yambol, and these two South Bulgarian towns, they are very similar because they are a bit far away from the center, from the Sofia first, and the second, they were kind of centers of anarchism during the beginning of 20th century. And anyway, this is I think that also because we are born with Theodor in 1968 year, we have this similar way of looking to the world and thinking of the world. And this was important as far for the physics of sorrow, but also for the Blind Vaysha. So your question was about
the past,
the
and
past
the future, and the missing present.
When I wrote the story, this is an old story. This story was wrote maybe 10 years ago, even more. The question was how to live in a present which is full of anxiety. And when you live in a present which is full of anxiety, usually you have two ways, to the future or to the past. But how to live when the future is cancelled? This is another question. Mm-hmm. Because in nowadays, but also maybe 10 years ago, we had the same feeling that the future is not what it used to be. The future cancelled in a way. We are sitting there and we don't want to we don't expect much more things or beautiful things from the future. And that's why our left eye, the eye for the past, is more active, let's say. And this is a story, as you said, you saw about the girl who is blind for the present because she's living in the past and the future at the same time. This is very important, to live at the same time in the future and the past. And if now we are sitting and I gave you an interview in this room, but we could imagine this place, this space in the past, what was here in 1940, 45, let's say. What will be here after 50 years? I think both pictures are really, what to say, also full of anxiety in a way. Yes. So the story is about this, that you cannot live for a long time, even in the future and in the past. The future and the past are good to visit and to come back to the present. Yes.
Yes, but I would like to add at this point that talking to you or reading your books makes the present very bearable, and thank you very much for it. Because although, despite all the anxieties that we have in present, I think, or I can speak at least for myself, is to find comfort in a world as it is. And I would also like to tell you a nice anecdote, because during the last weeks, as you know, we all spent a lot of time, maybe more time at computers at home than we usually would. And it was a challenge out there. So put 10 CD covers online of the music who inspired you. And then it was put 10 books, covers of your favorite books online that inspired you. And a friend from Romania, she had, I don't know, Day 5, Georgi Gospodinov, short stories. A friend from Croatia who is a writer, she had Physics of Sorrow. And, at this moment of feeling in so many ways isolated, I found via Facebook, I just found comfort in there are so many people out there who like to read your books and who can start something, who can find comfort within. So this was also the reason why we decided to stream the movie in the whole Balkans, because it was clear to us that you have many readers, we know, in whole Europe, but also specific in the Southeast Europe, also and many translations as well.
Yeah. Thank you. I think this is the question of consolation of the literature. I could say this, the consolation of storytelling. And we know this from Shahrazad. When you tell your stories, you gain one more day. Yeah. You tell your stories one night and you gain the next day, and again the next day, and the next day. So the importance of telling your stories, it's something that literature is capable to do, but also it's something that on the Balkans we know how to do, I think. I'm coming from the Bulgarian literature, and if you ask me what was most important for me, which authors, I could say on the first set my grandmother, Baba, grandmother, and after that Borges or Marquez. But my grandmother was in the beginning with her stories. She tell in a way, I wrote Blind Vaysha. It could be her story. And it was very important for me and for my generation, and maybe for the generation of Theodor Rushev. It was very important for our imagination. My grandmother told her stories in a way as she was Gabriel Garcia Marquez. She never read Marquez, of course. She never heard about Marquez. She didn't know that he existed. But the way she tell us her stories, there was something like magic realism in this kind of storytelling. And now in the anxiety time, because when we are telling stories, usually when you want your child to go to sleep, when you want to calm, to give some consolation, that everything is fine, you go sleep, nothing is dangerous and so on. So this is the main purpose of the storytelling actually. And that's why in times like ours, I think that we slowly came back to the literature, because literature is this kind of slow media.
Yeah.
I think that we are full of all these fast medias, and we need to have to reach the meaning, what to say, the meaning of the life or of the world, or, to have it again. And maybe storytelling will help us. So this is my explanation.
Yes, I would like just to add something. It has also to do with time, but generation. When you speak of Theodor Ushev and yourself, you say we are of the generation of '68, coming from the southern part of Bulgaria. And I was born in 1982 in Sarajevo, and I also feel you. So it's not a generation thing, and it's not a thing from South Bulgaria. But I think this is what the long life of your writing, because it now has been almost 10 years after Physics of Sorrow, and I read just in at Literaturport that the Greek author, she wrote a book review how important this book is for her, and you wrote it in 2011. So it's Greece, it's Bosnia, it's Bulgaria. I would not I would not narrow it that down, that this is maybe something yours, but that we recognize ourselves also in your feeling towards the world, and maybe in your answers and your questions. Because to come back again to Blind Vaysha is that you don't give us an answer.
Yeah, I don't have answer. I didn't have answer when I wrote the story, and now I don't have answer how to live in the present and to go and come back from the past, not to stay there forever, because the past could be dangerous.
Yeah.
The past could be, it's a kind of discrete monster.
Yeah.
It's a charming monster. Yeah, you want to live there, it's interesting, and you know what happened now. It's the same like in Blind Vaysha also, because what happened now, as you said, okay, we decided to show our 10 best books. We decided to come back to the classic literature, to read again Decameron or Camus. And we decided to publish our photos when we were kids. Or we are watching old movies. We're listening old songs. And this is also what we thought in the beginning. This is also because we need to have memory about ourselves when we were, what to say, young, or the whole person, or the world was quiet, or I don't know. But this past, this is the bright side of the past, but we have also the dark side of the past. This past could be used as, of course, and they used the past as for populistic, what to say, movements, ideas, and so on. They could say, let's make our country or personal life great again.
Yeah.
I promise you the bright past.
But there is also this American writer and psychotherapist and psychiatrist, Irvin Yalom, who said, we have to give up the hope that our past will be better.
That our past will be better, yes, this is a very good saying. Yeah, in my writing, and also in Blind Vaysha as well, I want to tell about the apocalypses, but I don't want to discourage the people. If you tell your stories, even if they are stories about the end, about the apocalypse, but if you tell them in a, what to say, in a way that you want to give hope to the reader, it works. It's my way. I don't like to put the head of the reader in the mood, or to say, okay, everything will be so apocalyptic and dangerous. No, I want to say, yeah, it will be apocalyptic, but we could find meaning in this also.
Yes, of course, but you know what? I think that you have something like you want also to seduce this totally hysterically happy people. Come on, people, be sad.
Yeah.
So it's
I believe in saddest person.
Yeah. So come on, read the book, be sad. But it's in a sort of, you know, it's a sort of sadness when you think that you will. That you're also happy, you know, enjoying the sadness, which is which is a contrast to our society of always being happy.
Absolutely, yeah. I want to say there is nothing bad in this to be sad and to be full of hesitation, even, because the dictators we know, they don't have feeling of hesitation, or the most populist leaders now. You couldn't expect this hesitation from Trump to Putin. They're not people that you would expect that they are sad and what to do, the people are suffering and so on. No, that's why I want to say, no, it's not a problem to be sad. It's a human condition. Yeah. It's a so normal thing for the human being to be sad. And like blind Vaysha to hesitate, okay, where I want to live in my past or in my future, because Vaysha is also highly, full of anxiety. It's an anxious person.
Yes, but she's, I think, also a desperate person, because at one moment she wants, you know, to grab her eye and to tear it out of her head. She wants a solution, but which eye? What should I decide?
Yeah. This is very good exercise when you want to live in the future or in the past. Just imagine that you could live only in the future and you will live without your parents or without your daughter because they are in the past. Or if you want to live only in the past, you also will live without your close people.
Yeah, but this is also you're also very playful in everything that you write. You're a very funny person and a very playful, you know, with for example, with myths, with form, with styles of narrations. And I will try now to explain to our audience what you did here, or maybe you can help me what you did with the story Blind Vaysha, because it started as a normal story, nothing special, and then at some point you have two columns which are separated, they are divided. On the left one, you describe what she sees with her left eye, and then there is a right column, and you describe what she sees with her right. And this is like not one line after another, but you are trying sort of to present to present us this blindness, also literally, this division of her sight.
It's we could show it in the book. These two columns, because there's something very important when you read one story, and this is to feel empathy to a character. And when you have these two columns, you could feel this empathy literally. What to say? You could read the left side, the past, the side of the past, and the side of the future. And this is also, it's a visual way to feel what blind Vaysha really feeling, to see the world that she's seeing. And I really like Theodorus's animation and drawings and everything, because he follow in the movie this divided screen. And so you can transform this feeling of empathy to the screen, and this is important.
Now you mentioned another topic which is very important for your work, and this is empathy. And for example, in Physics of Sorrow, we have this character who feels too much empathy. So this is his diagnosis. So you even create some
extra
names.
empathy. It's
Extra
like illness.
Yeah, it's an illness, but as you said, not only in literature but also in everyday life, this being sad or being empathetic to other people is a way of being.
And this is also connected with the question of time,
Mm-hmm.
because when you are empathetic, you can enter into the stories of other generations, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the purpose of the empathy in the Physics of Sorrow. Because of the empathy, you could enter into the stories of your grandparents, of your parents, of your generation, even into the stories of future generation.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the empathy, the human being became the only time machine actually that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Human being is a time machine. If you want to travel in the past worlds, you no need of kind of very sophisticated machine. I don't know, I hate fantastic fantasy and fantastic literature. It's enough to have a person that is telling his or her stories. And if you have empathy, you could travel into the stories of this person. You could be this one.
Yes, but then I'm thinking again, you bring up, it's like, it's a cycle talking to you, because there are some topics and they come to each other, and they say that this form is perfect, circle is a perfect form, and maybe then I would like to ask you again, time is also what you're writing about in your last novel, which is at this moment only available in your mother tongue Bulgarian, and I hope very soon also for us other readers, Time Shelter.
Yeah, it was just published in Bulgaria a month ago, and the main topic is again the time and the past, and what happened when the virus of the past came here, spread out against us. Yes, I have some motifs that I really like, and you're absolutely right. They're moving from my poetry to my short stories to novels or to the essays, and everything is unfinished, like the story of Blind Vaysha, because subtitle of the story is unfinished story. And maybe now it sounds more optimistic when you have some things that are unfinished.
Yeah, and what I would like maybe to say, coming to an end of this our conversation, thank you for making this present moment so bearable and so beautiful because of this conversation with you.
Thank you, thank you to the director of the movie, Theodor Rushev, and to Blind Vaysha.
And to Blind Vaysha.